Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Attorney General Eric Schneiderman. I appreciate you're all joining me today. I'm very proud to be here with my partners in protecting tenants and putting an end to the most despicable forms of tenant harassment today. The housing mayor of New York, Bill de Blasio, Jamie Rubin, the commissioner of New York State Homes and Community Renewal, Vicki Bean, commissioner of New York City Housing Preservation and Development, Steve Banks, our HRA commissioner, Rick Chandler, the commissioner of the Department of Buildings, and we're also joined by Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams and Councilmember Lori Cumbo. Ladies and gentlemen, New York's real estate boom is generating jobs, it is creating revenue, but it also has put thousands of tenants at risk to unscrupulous landlords. When rents rise as fast as they do all across the city, bad landlords, who I emphasize are in the minority, most landlords are good corporate citizens who follow the rules and want to make money the honest way, but bad landlords have an incredible incentive under the current laws to get rent-regulated tenants out of their buildings by any means necessary, and harassment is reaching new lows. That is why I stood with Mayor de Blasio and my other colleagues in government in February of this year announcing the creation of the Tenant Harassment Prevention Task Force, a joint city and state effort aimed at ending harassment. And that day, I promised that my office would not hesitate to file criminal charges against unscrupulous landlords who we believed were endangering tenants through their harassment. Today, thanks to the joint efforts of my colleagues who stand with me here, I'm making good on that promise. This morning, after a 6-month investigation into what we contend was extraordinarily dangerous construction work at the building behind us, the property's landlord, Daniel Melamed, was arrested on 3 counts of unlawful eviction, counts of child endangerment, and filing false construction plans, which is a felony. Mr. Melamed's construction engineer, Peruz Santanzadeh, was also charged with a single felony count of filing false construction plans, again, a felony. As we allege in the indictment and other submissions to the court, in February 2014, these defendants filed plans for a massive and illegal construction project in this building. They then undertook months of demolition work that put the health and safety of every tenant at risk. You can see the building behind us. This does not look like someplace people are living. Many of the doors have been pulled out. The walls are crumbling. It's full of dust, but people still live there. And on the signed construction forms they submitted to the city, these defendants were asked a very straightforward but meaningful question. Were there rent-regulated tenants living in the building during the proposed construction? The reason for the question is simple. If they're tenants, then city and state agencies can make sure they're protected. As we allege today, Mr. Melamed and his engineer knowingly lied and made false submissions so they could prevent city inspectors from giving the project the oversight it deserved. When Mr. Melamed bought this building in December 2012, it was full. The units were full of rent-regulated tenants. By the time our task force was able to get there and inspect after they've made their false submissions about construction, we were down to 3 tenants. They had harassed and driven out the others. One of the buildings was still occupied by a 6-year-old boy and his family. The tenants had been without consistent heat or hot water for almost 2 years. There's emergency heat and hot water that was provided by HPD. Demolition work throughout the building left the common areas cold and covered in thick dust, which blew into the apartments. Doors were replaced with plywood. And you all remember the last 2 winters, 2 of the coldest on records. Well, winter was inside this building for the tenants that lived there, as well as the thick dust that poured into their apartments. They had to stuff wet towels under their doors just to keep the dust out. The 6-year-old boy's mother has stated that she had to put a cloth over his face whenever she left the building to stop him from inhaling the dust, which our inspectors determined had lead levels that were 88 times higher than the law allows. In short, the actions that we allege by Mr. Melamed and his engineer were really textbook tenant harassment. The case is ongoing. Defendants are always presumed innocent, unless and until proven guilty. But we are making clear today, and as the indictment and other documents we've submitted to the court make very clear, tenant harassment is unacceptable and will not be tolerated, and our task force is dedicated to wiping it out. No one should have to live like this. No mother should have to raise a child in these conditions. Again, most landlords play by the rules, but our offices have received more and more complaints in recent years. We've seen a huge rise in complaints in neighborhoods like Crown Heights, where rapidly rising rents are viewed by some landlords as unlocking a huge payday if they can just get tenants out. And since we've announced our task force, we've been on this. I think the mayor will speak to this, but we've already inspected dozens of buildings, hundreds of units in Brooklyn and Manhattan. Those inspections have led to violations for hazardous conditions, violations of environmental laws, partial vacate orders, stop work orders. And I am pleased to report that this part of the city and state government is working well. We've worked very well together. Cooperation has been excellent and seamless. And the bottom line is simple. My office will not allow abusive tenant harassment. The task force we are all participating in will not allow it. And the people of the state of New York will certainly not allow it. This today is the first criminal prosecution resulting from the task force, but we have multiple pending investigations. We encourage tenants who you believe you were being harassed, contact our offices. You can dial 311, you can reach my office, you can reach the city. Our message to bad landlords is simple. There's no excuse for harassment. There is no defense to harassment. We will find you, we will pursue you, and we will prosecute you to the full extent of the law. And ahora, en español, estos individuos pusieron en peligro la salud y bienestar de varias familias en sus propias casas. Fueron arrestados y le aplicamos todo el peso de la ley. No vamos a tolerar abusos contra inquilinos de renta controlada. And now it is my honor to introduce someone who has been for many years a great advocate for tenants, a great advocate for affordable housing, and he takes that advocacy into his role now as the mayor of the city of New York, the housing mayor, Bill de Blasio.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank the Attorney General for his extraordinary leadership. We stood together just months ago, and he made clear that as Attorney General, he would use the full power of his office to go after unscrupulous landlords, to stop the displacements, to stop the illegality, and he has made good on that promise. This is just the beginning of the kind of enforcement actions that you will see regularly as this Attorney General shows exactly why the people of this state put their faith in him. I want to thank him for his leadership. I want to thank your staff for the great work they are doing and for the partnership that has existed between the Attorney General's office and the city agencies. We are working as one to stop illegal actions by bad landlords, to stop the harassment and displacement of tenants, and to show that crime does pay. There will be real consequences for any bad landlords that hurt their tenants. I want to thank all the elected officials who are here and my appointees who are here. I want to congratulate Jamie Rubin, our new commissioner for DHCR for the state. Congratulate him for assuming that role. I want to also thank our Deputy Commissioner for Environmental Health at Department of Health, Dan Cass, for being with us. Attorney General made clear that we have a very consistent standard we're applying. If a landlord does the wrong thing, there will be consequences. There have been too many abusive landlords in this city. Too many times they've gotten away with abusive actions towards tenants. The message today is game over. There will now be serious consequences, and all the relevant agencies are working together, taking action together. We thank the Attorney General, we thank DHCR, we thank all the city agencies that as one are fighting these unscrupulous landlords. The Tenant Harassment Prevention Task Force was not supposed to be about talk, it was supposed to be about action, and now action is beginning. The arrest of Daniel Melamed sends a clear signal to any unscrupulous landlords that they will be next, and will spare no effort in going after those who are forcing New Yorkers out of their homes illegally. On top of the huge challenges that families have in the city finding an affordable place to live, they should not have to deal with illegal harassment and displacement. This joint task force is a game changer because it allows faster, clearer, sharper action, and you've seen it again just in the matter of these few months. All of us work together to give the Attorney General the information he needs to build his case so he can use the full power of his office for justice. As you heard, as alleged in this indictment, conditions in this building have been dangerous. They've been dangerous, they've been unhealthy, they've been unbearable. Here's a rent-regulated building. This is exactly the kind of building we want to preserve, so there's decent housing for tenants. This is what we need to protect in the city, and look at what this landlord is alleged to have done, to have made it unlivable. How craven to take families who are just trying to get by and make their lives unlivable for a profit. The indictment makes very clear there wasn't even heat and hot water in the midst of winter. The indictment alleges clearly that there was health conditions in this building that were unacceptable, that literally air that wasn't healthy to breathe because of the actions of the landlord. No one should have to live like that. And Mr. Melamed, it's quite clear from the evidence that the Attorney General laid out about the timeline, very systematically undermined the quality of life in his own building. Over 200 violations that HPD inspectors found over time. Emergency repairs were needed just to keep the place barely functioning. This building's been on the city's list of worst buildings since January. This didn't happen by accident. This happened by design based on all the information in the Attorney General's indictment. And as the Attorney General said, children, imagine how craven an act it is to create an unhealthy circumstance knowing there's children in this building. Well, that's exactly what happened. What the landlord didn't know was that the law was already after him. HPD was already deepening its investigation. Department of Buildings joined in. As more information came together, they elevated to the task force, and this is exactly what the power of the task force is, to take those strands and turn it into the prosecutorial potential of the AG's office. It's impossible to talk about this without thinking about the backdrop of what we're going through in these days right now. Over 1 million rent-regulated units hanging in the balance, over 2 million New Yorkers. And a law that right now rewards vacancies. The current rent law must be changed and improved because it rewards vacancies. And therefore, an unscrupulous landlord will do everything in their power, legal or illegal, to get that vacancy so they can jack up the rent an additional 20%. We see it over and over again. The current law creates an unintended incentive to find every way to jack up the rent to get it out of rent regulation, create vacancies to get it out of rent regulation, make quote-unquote capital improvements so that the rent can be jacked up more to get it out of rent regulation. We see this cycle over and over. It's why we need to change these laws now. It's why we need to use every tool we have to fight harassment. Even with stronger laws, the fight against harassment will continue. It'll continue with this Attorney General, this task force. It'll continue with the $36 million that we put into legal aid and legal services for tenants who are being harassed in the city, because they deserve to know there'll be a lawyer on their side. And I reiterate, not just because of current events in Albany, but in general, any tenant who believes they are being harassed, who believes they are being forced out, should call 311 so we can get them help. We're not going to rest as long as there's even a single landlord illegally displacing and harassing their tenants. We're not going to rest. We're not going to rest until every tenant is protected. A quick few sentences en español también. En la ciudad de Nueva York, no vamos a tolerar tácticas ilegales o abusivas por parte de caseros. Hoy fue arrestado un casero acusado de acosar a inquilinos para que se muden de sus apartamentos. Este arresto es resultado de una investigación del equipo especial de protección de inquilinos que anunciamos hace pocos meses. Los neoyorquinos deben poder vivir en paz en viviendas asequibles. Seguiremos trabajando con nuestros colegas para proteger a nuestros vecinos y para que Nueva York siga siendo una ciudad donde todos pueden vivir. Thank you, and thank you again, Attorney General.
Thank you. Okay. Muchísimas gracias, alcalde. And now we're going to hear from someone who has a strong commitment to public service and who, in fact, has just started his new position today. It is a pleasure to have him here with us. He said he wanted an indictment his first day on the job, and this is a man who gets results. Our partner in this effort, the Commissioner of DHCR, who provides the referral so our office can bring criminal cases, and who is a critical player in this comprehensive, collaborative, and effectively collaborative effort, Jamie Rubin.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you, Attorney General Schneiderman, Mayor de Blasio. This is, in fact, my first day on the job. I did get my first indictment. Thank you. You can tell it's my first day. This is fantastic. I also didn't come armed with Spanish, unfortunately. Next time. On behalf of Governor Andrew Cuomo, I want to thank our partners for their leadership and expertise in this joint effort to advance the protection of tenants and investigate claims of harassment. And I thank everybody arrayed behind me. Mayor de Blasio and Attorney General Schneiderman have already acknowledged their presence, for which I thank them. I'm honored that the governor, who created the Tenant Protection Unit in 2012, has named me as the new commissioner and CEO of New York State Homes and Community Renewal, HCR, with the mission to protect New York's more than 2 million rent-regulated tenants, whose ability to stay in rent-regulated apartments is very much in question right now, as the mayor said. We care very much about tenants' rights and protections and keeping our housing stock strong. I want to be sure that everyone knows loud and clear that tenants have an ally in Albany. Governor Cuomo is committed to protecting tenants and extending and enhancing our rent regulation law. So while I am new here, as everybody's noted, this is my first day as commissioner, I'm well aware of the work that this task force has done and is doing. I know that we're here today because of the hard work that the Attorney General and his team have put in, the Governor's Tenant Protection Unit, led by Richard White, and all of our city partners, HPD, Department of City Buildings, Steve Banks and his team, and many more. The Tenant Harassment Prevention Task Force grew out of the successes of the Governor's Tenant Protection Unit, TPU, which examines the patterns and practices of landlords based on the work that HCR does. Through its initiatives, the TPU has restabilized more than 40,000 units since its founding, bringing them back into regulation. And I want to note that nearly 14,000 of those 40,000 units are right here in Brooklyn, Mr. Borough President. In this spirit, I bring a message from the Governor to New Yorkers living in rent-regulated housing. The Governor is going to protect your right to feel secure in your own home. The Governor is going to protect your right to not be harassed into leaving your apartment. And the Governor is going to protect your right to sleep peacefully at night without worrying about losing basic services that make a home livable, safe, and stable. So we're here today, just 4 months after the announcement of the Joint Task Force, with the results of the first investigation and a first criminal indictment. We meant what we said in February, that this Joint Task Force equals an end to business as usual, as the mayor said, game over for unscrupulous landlords. We're in operation, we're fully actualized, and we're muscular, with a demonstrated ability now to share data, share resources, and share information. This truly is government working together at its best. Let's talk about what that means in real time. If there's a pattern of harassment that's been reported to any city or state governmental authority, it's circulated automatically to all partners in the task force, which exponentially enhances our ability to protect tenants. So the TPU will share information with the Attorney General and with all city agencies and vice versa. In this case, HPD asked the TPU to participate in the original inspection, and TPU was able to provide key data points for the AG's criminal investigation, including rent rolls and tenant lists, which come from our database. The task force worked together throughout, from scheduling inspections to producing key testimony for the grand jury, and of course we come to full circle to today's indictment. On the task force, the governor's TPU is empowered to make a determination as to whether to refer the matter to the Attorney General for criminal prosecution. Each entity has a job to do, and we're here today to give credit to all for a job well done. So together, we, the task force, will continue to protect our tenants, to investigate harassment to the full extent of the law, to keep our communities strong, and to preserve our affordable housing. That is what the governor wants and what he's charged me to do as the new commissioner of HCR, and I intend to carry out the remarkable work of the Tenant Protection Unit, Richard White and his team, and to protect tenants and preserve affordable housing across the city for as long as I'm in office. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And with that, I think Matt is going to enable you to ask questions. I'm sure there are not that many, but let's start on topic.
Yeah, on housing issues and today's indictment.
How many units in the building, how many people were living here at the beginning and at the end? And where do those people live when something like this happens and the landlord is arrested? What happens to these tenants?
Well, this building has 14 units, and when Mr. Malamed purchased it in December of 2012, all of the units were occupied. These were rent-regulated housings, the kind of affordable housing that we need to have in New York if we are to function as a city, if people are going to be able to live and work here and raise their families. Initially, he offered people buyouts or to forgive rent, but then at early 2013, he got much rougher and decided to start cutting off heat and hard water. They then filed plans at the beginning of this year, false statements with the city, and then undertook construction that was really deconstruction, was really ripping the place apart, ripping doors off, exposing tenants to the lead. The tenants moved out gradually. 3 families still remain. This place looks abandoned. There are 3 families still living there, again, including a 6-year-old boy and his family. The tenants have scattered around, but we have located them, and part of what we are seeking here is restitution to pay them back and make them whole. The defendants are also facing possible jail time up to 1 1/3 to 4 years. So this is a very serious case, and we're pursuing every possible remedy. One of our goals always is to try and make the tenants whole.
2 questions. First, when a landlord indicates on paperwork that no landlord tenant is living here, you guys double check that, and so why not? And secondly, you had this task force in February, about 1 action. What's taking so long and planning to continue that?
No, there have been dozens of actions. This is the first criminal indictment, and as appropriately so, criminal cases are harder to bring and they take some more time. But in answer to the first question, they submitted these documents, and very quickly thereafter, our partners, the HCR, HPD, and my office, became aware of the fact that they were in fact doing construction where there were tenants here. So this was only in February, and when they began the process. So this has all taken place in a matter of a few months. This also is an ongoing investigation, so, and I don't want to say anything more about that, but there are other buildings under scrutiny, and the task force itself has inspected many buildings and units and has stop work orders, has citations for violations. This is just the first criminal indictment, and in addition to false filing and child endangerment, we have illegal eviction claims. So there are narrower areas of criminal law, but we've taken action through the civil process in many, many cases. The task force, our partners from DHCR, HPD, and my office, are out all the time inspecting buildings. Most cases do not result in findings of criminal conduct, but that doesn't mean they aren't issuing partial stop work orders, full stop work orders, findings of environmental violations, and things like that. The indictment was issued when the grand jury was ready. We wanted to get this done as quickly as possible. The investigation was undertaken and completed in a matter of a few months, but obviously it required getting testimony from tenants, and in some cases people are reluctant to do that, and as the commissioner noted, getting the rent rolls and being able to document this course of conduct. So we're pursuing very aggressively. The timing is, as in most criminal matters, as soon as you're ready to indict, you indict. We were ready to indict, and this week is it. As the mayor noted, many of us in the state, and I think everyone here and many of our allies and colleagues have pointed to the fact that the current system creates an incentive for bad landlords to vacate apartments by any means necessary. The vacancy bonus and vacancy decontrol is a structural flaw in the system that is becoming much more evident because of the boom in real estate and the sharp escalation of rents. So this is something that we are hoping and seeking to ensure that it's addressed before the rent regulations are renewed in Albany, and I think all of us here are committed to that. Well, we are also able to obtain injunctive relief and to see that the building is maintained. Obviously, we're going to seek to enable these people to stay here, and the cleanup process starts immediately. As I said, this is an ongoing matter, and we are looking at other buildings. I don't want to say anything about ongoing investigations. The building is being made safe. As soon as we unsealed the indictment, we've arrested the defendants, and again, part of what we're going to seek is injunctive relief. I think we're going to get their cooperation initially. It's nothing like being arrested to make you more cooperative, and I'll let the mayor respond to the other question.
Okay, we'll do that after.
Yes, good point. Almost got through.
So, Greg, thank you for that question. When landlords do not pay their fines, when they continue these kinds of patterns, we escalate. So, and we are trying very hard to both increase the fines that we can levy against the landlords, but also increasing to criminal enforcement, to repeated enforcement. And then we bring what's called a comprehensive case in housing court to try to, bring contempt actions, et cetera. And also we seek through what is called a 7A action to actually take the building away from the landlord and move it into ownership that will take care of it.
How many of those have you done in the last 7 days?
I don't have that number with me, I'm sorry, but we'll get it to you.
And let me just note that this is a problem that is a new problem. We have not seen the rapid escalation of rents in every neighborhood like this ever before. There's never been a boom like this, and the creation of the task force in February represents a very positive response by government. And let me assure you that while I don't believe in criminal process in most street crimes on a theory of general deterrence, because most of those criminals don't plan ahead, it does work extraordinarily well with white-collar criminals who do plan ahead, and the threat of criminal sanctions is very real. And there are a lot of people all over the city paying attention to this arrest and indictment today. 1 1/3 to 4 years is serious time.
Anything else on this? Who's the lawyer for this person? Where is he in court? Is he been arraigned? Is it bail?
They are in court right now, and I don't know what the disposition has been. They are in court right now, and we can get you the name of the lawyer. I don't know what it is.
And who's their defense?
I don't know. They just the indictment was just unsealed and they were just arrested. We've also submitted further information with our letter on the bail application, so all of that will come out before the day's over. On the auto dealerships, we have my office has sued 3 auto dealerships, and we've achieved good settlements for customers. We've also notified 10 other auto dealerships. What these folks are accused of, and what we are confident that some of them at least have done, is what's called jamming. People bought cars, but then they got credit repair services attached at were billed extra thousands of dollars. They didn't ask for it. It was useless. So we are unwinding that. We're getting restitution, and anyone who thinks they were overcharged in the purchase or lease of an auto should contact our office, go to our website, because this is a problem that we are confident that there are more dealerships out there. This is simply adding phony expenses to the bill, having people pay for things they did not ask for, in this case, credit repair services that apparently weren't worth anything anyway, and we're going to be pursuing this. This is there's a wave of this going on, and we've broken into it. We have multiple investigations underway, but we have achieved results with 3 dealerships already.
I have one more question on the task force. Do you go by tips, like when you call in and say my landlord is harassing me, or like what's the kind of mechanism you use?
Yes, and as the mayor and I both said, if you are being harassed, if there is construction that is damaging your building and endangering people going on, call 311. It's very simple. We do want tenants' tips, and we also have independent investigations going on where our task force is out investigating and looking at things that appear to be suspicious. So we don't just wait for tips, but that is an important part of our process.
Is that what happened here? Was a tip, a 311, or investigation? How did that happen?
In this case, there was an investigation, but we are receiving tips, and we're encouraging people to give us more tips.
Thank you.
Thank you.